Jaime, and this is Financial Minds Meet the Experts. On this show, we're joined by financial industry experts to talk about topics, trends, and themes that credit unions professionals need to know about. Today on Financial Minds Meet the Experts, we're meeting Mike Umscheid, President CEO of ARCSys. Welcome, Mike.
Well, welcome. Thank you for having me today.
You're welcome. So in today's episode, we are going to dive into CECL. So Mike, what are the benefits of CECL modeling and forecasting for credit unions?
Well, the benefits kind of are that you need to think about your credit risk. And at the end of the day, I think the real benefit is getting a better handle on your credit risk. Now, again, all this has to do with accounting, so it's something they have to do, right? So when you think about, and you'll hear from institutions, they're required to do it and they don't like it. So it's a great first question. And, yes, it solves the accounting issue. Yes, it does all those things. But the real benefit is that, and I think a lot of our clients have learned, is that you really get a handle on what your credit risk is. I can't tell you how many times I've sat down and gone through some of the charts and graphs we have in the system, and they're like, wow, I didn't realize that, or I didn't realize my prepayment rates had slowed down, or I didn't understand this, right? And it's because of the depth you have to go in to actually, if you're going to forecast a pool for 5 years or 7 years or 10 years, you got to have enough information to do that. And quite frankly, historically, institutions just haven't taken the time to gather that. So to me, one of the real benefits is, other than the fact you get to do wonderful accounting, right? One of the benefits is that you really do get to understand your credit risk and what's going on. So.
All right. Well, why is it important for credit unions to start implementation process now?
Well, the big reason is, first of all, they have to adopt this a little over a year from now. And that adoption process is kind of interesting real quick. Number one, you have to, on January 1st, calculate your allowance. So not only are you going to calculate allowance on December 31st, 2022, the next day, basically, you calculate an allowance again. So when you think about, why is it important to start early, is because it takes a while to get in position to do that. And you also want to be able to look at your models through time to see if they're actually giving you a number that makes sense, right? And so let me say this. We plan on 4 to 6 months implementation. So that means you better be started by June, of next year. And I would tell you January is a better deal, right? If you don't get started till June or July of next year, or you're still trying to get your data together, you're going to hit right up against your end. And if your model doesn't exactly predict very well, you're going to figure that out after you start adoption. So you really want to give it time, and mainly just because it takes some time to get there. But at the other side, I can tell you, we run 5 models in what ARCSys and Viso puts out. And the reason we do that is because some models just tend to predict a little better than others. And sometimes it can be dramatic, and sometimes it can be smaller. But some models just tend to get it closer. And at the end of the day, one of the big things that we've seen is volatility, and you don't want a lot of volatility in your calculation. So take the time, get ready. And by the way, a lot of institutions are still hoping for, someone from on high to come down and say, this was not going to happen in credit union land. And I can tell you, I was just at the NAFQ conference, and they don't think that's going to happen. So, and I don't either. I mean, it's very unlikely that will happen. And so, just take your time, get ready, and you'll be fine. Yeah.
What other challenges could credit unions face if they continue to wait to implement the CECL process?
Yeah, the biggest challenge really is that they're going to get to the end of the year and still be struggling with what their numbers should be. And the problem is, I'm not talking about 5,000 here, 5,000 there. I'm talking about 1 million here and 1 million there, right? It's not little differences. And these tweaks you have to make. And the auditors, oh my gosh, if they're waiting till the end of the year, the auditors are going to be all over them. because they're going to be saying, where's your number? How's your number going to look? What's going to happen? What have you guys done? And truthfully, I'm a little disappointed. I hear from a lot of institutions, the NCUA hasn't been pushing very hard. And I really think that's a mistake. You've got to get everybody thinking about it. And maybe they think they can all do it in 1 year, but it's a lot to go through. And especially if you're smaller, right? If you're smaller, one of the reasons ARCSys Viso put everything together was to really help smaller credit unions. And we understand you don't have lots of people. We understand that small institutions don't have these teams of people to go in and do things. Well, I can promise you're going to wish you had a team if you wait till the end of the year. So just, take your time and get started, and you'll get there, but it's going to take some effort.
Okay, thank you. What separates the ARCSys CECL program from other providers?
I think there's a couple of key things. First of all, and probably most importantly, especially for smaller credit unions, but probably all providers, is we decided to have an implementation team that really holds your hand through the process. We help you with your data, we load your data files, we help you with your reconciliation. We do all of those things to get you up and running, where most of our competitors don't. And then on the other side, actually in the modeling, we customize everything to you. We don't try to make you fit into some mold, because that's really hard to do. And actually what that does is it makes it easier on the provider and harder on you, because the provider is just giving you a mold. If you don't fit exactly in the mold, you got to figure out how to fill in the holes, right? And so it's easier if we customize it to you, and we really do that. And then lastly, we've tried to create it, and I don't want to say you hit a button and you get an answer, but it's almost that close, because we work so hard with you to kind of put everything together. There's less work once you start doing your actual calculations, because we've done all the work on the backside. And so we really do have a model that small credit unions can put their data in, click a button, and a couple small things, and they'll have a number. For most small institutions, they can probably have their CECL calculation in under an hour. So I think that's pretty simple as it goes.
Okay. What is the ARCSys allowance for credit loss calculator, and how will it benefit credit unions?
So the ACL calculator is just our brand name for the software. And it really is kind of more dynamic than just the allowance. We also have a complete data warehouse. So I want you to think of this. If I came into your office and said, I'm going to do this for free for you. I'm going to take all of your data for 10 years and I'm going to put it in a database, and I'm going to create a data warehouse for you. I'm going to do these calculations. You'd be like, wow, I can get all this data and make it all simple for free. Well, that's kind of what CECL has made everybody do. And so what the ACL calculator is applications that not only do the calculation, but also do a data warehouse. So you can go in and get analytics. You can literally set up your analytics. So after we update the data warehouse, you can go hit a button and all your reports will print, right? You don't have to go create this stuff in Excel. It can all be there for you. And again, trying to make your life easier, because if you're going to use a software, the whole goal is to make your life easier, right? And so that's really what we try to do. And then lastly, we also do investments. So you have to put an allowance on your investments. And because you do, that application is there. So the ACL calculator encompasses a whole broad range of different things that we wrap underneath there.
Okay. What type of reporting does the ARCSys CECL solution provide? Is it customizable? And how can credit unions utilize that reporting?
Great question. And we get asked that all the time. So there's a couple different levels. First of all, we have kind of like standard canned reports. So those are just canned things to help you get your allowance done every month that are very consistent. The data points you need to either reconcile or see what your allowance is, or to see changes in your allowance. So we have a lot of what we call standard reports. We then have a whole group of what we call financial disclosure reports. So if you do a financial statement, you can go in and hit some buttons and it'll produce all of your disclosures for you. So all of those are there. We also have some customizable report within the CECL system. And then we have the data warehouse. And in the data warehouse, you can pretty much customize whatever you want. So we have really everything from standard canned all the way to customization. Even charts, graphs, Excel file downloads. There's all kinds of things there you could do. Plus, you have access to all your data. So if you just want to create something outside, you can download it to Excel, create your own report if you want to. But most of that, if not all that, can be done in the data warehouse. And then once it's done, you don't have to do it again, and it just keeps reproducing itself as you go through time.
All right, wonderful. Thank you. Any advice to credit unions that are taking their time to contemplate which route to go in regards to a CECL solution?
Yeah, that's a great question. So at the end of the day, you have to decide, and let me just say this: everybody says they're simple. Everybody says they're simple. Even the people that aren't simple say they're simple. And the problem is that a modeling is not really simple. Modeling and forecasting, no matter how simple your loans are not that simple. In fact, most of the differences between a big credit union and a small credit union is just the number of loans. Most of their loans look a lot alike. And even their commercial loans between credit unions look pretty similar. Credit unions aren't out there going any kind of dynamic types of commercial loans like Bank of America and Wells Fargo do. They generally don't do that. So let's think, first of all, everybody's loans pretty much look the same. The problem is that they don't act the same. Some institutions take, especially larger ones, take more risks. Some smaller ones take some risks. Some smaller ones have much more homogeneous risk because they're tied still closer to one or two companies or industries. So they can have their own kind of risk profiles that through time will make their calculation more or less difficult. So first of all, just forget about that. The question is how do I make this process simple for myself, right? I have to do the accounting. I can't get out of it. So how do I make this functionally simple so that I don't have to do a ton of effort? Now, if you decide to do it in-house, you can, and there's ways. You can try to do it in Excel. The FDIC has their scale method, which is similar to kind of WARM method. And then there's vendors like us. Now, at the end of the day, you have to pick what's best. Now, doing it in-house, you're going to say, well, that's going to be cheaper. Well, I can tell you, I've talked to people that tried to do it in-house and they spend a lot of hours on it. So you have to weigh the fact that you're spending all this time trying to do it and update it and all these changes versus like a system like ARCSys doing it for you. If you can do the WARM method in-house and you can do it in an hour, I don't think you can, but if you can, then it's going to take you, if you're a small institution, half an hour to an hour to do it in our system, and you're done. And then remember, you also have to do all your reports and your disclosures, all that's done for you. So when you think about the time, it's not only doing the calculation, it's all the other stuff that you have to do, the analytics, the analysis, where in a system like ours, it does it for you. Yes, we do charge. That's part of the deal, right? But you have to weigh that cost against the cost internally of you trying to do this all yourself. And at the other side, you also have a data warehouse, which gives you a full data warehouse with all your data, plus all the analytics. So, I, of course, think a vendor is a better deal. I think what we've done, especially for smaller credit unions, has been really fantastic with the VISO program. Yes, it does cost money, but at the end of the day, you're going to spend time and effort on it. The question is, which way can you get there faster? And what else can you benefit it from? So I think back to that first question of what are the benefits is you get a whole bunch of additional things when you have a vendor that you would have to create yourself. And so keep that in mind. It's also a lot harder to do than you think it is when you start forecasting and modeling. And the support, you have to get support for your auditors, and ARCSys supplies a lot of that. So, there's pros and cons, but at the end of the day, it's a cost thing. And you're going to end up spending more time on this than what you do today in a current incurred loss model. So just think through it and make the right decision. But if nothing else, get started because you really have to get on this to get it done.
All right. Well, Mike, thank you so much. Any final thoughts for our viewers in regards to CECL?
Well, Jaime, thank you too for having us chat today. And again, I think the final thought is take your time, but you're running out of time. And go ahead and just get started. And ARCSys VISO would love to help you. If not, there are other vendors out there and you can do it in-house. I'm going to tell you, if you're trying to start in-house right now, you're probably a little late. You better get on it really quickly. But other than that, there's vendors out there that can help you. And I think at a reasonable price.
All right. Thank you. And thank you to our sponsor, Vidaso Financial's TechCon 2022 event. They are our sponsor of this episode of Financial Minds Meets the Experts. Every day, we are seeing companies that are set to revolutionize how financial institutions do business. From faster payments to easy online applications, now more than ever, member expectations of technology are evolving. And credit union service needs to change to meet these demands. But where do you begin? By attending TechCon 2022 on February 8th and 9th. Here you'll see demos and presentations of several fintech products and services. Launch your credit union into the future and register for this exciting event today by visiting www.vfccu.org for more event details. Mike, again, thank you so much for your time, and thank you to everyone for listening.
Thank you.